Week 5, engaging in meaningful relationships. In week 1, we talked about our role as youth investors. We asked some key questions about why we have decided to become involved in youth ministry and what it is that we're hoping to accomplish. We acknowledged how important it is to be aware of where we currently stand so that we can be sure of where it is we're hoping to go. This week, we're going to talk more about who we are in the lives of our students, and specifically how we can have a lasting impression on each one of them in every interaction that we have. I'm not going to tell you that this will magically transform all of your relationships overnight, but I do believe in these tools, as I know that they speak to the core desires of each of us as human beings, as well as some profound trends being experienced by Gen Z. One of these desires is to be taken seriously and to be seen as significant. Think back to a time when you were dismissed, minimized. It could have been at work when you had a concern that went unaddressed by a superior. Maybe it was at school with a teacher or a coach who made you feel like you didn't warrant their time and attention. Perhaps it was your own parents who blew you off at certain moments, ignoring your stories or your worries, or making you feel insignificant in some other way. You probably don't remember these encounters very fondly, and it might have even skewed the way that you look back at those particular individuals. Now, think about a person who took the time to show you just how important you really are. Someone who listened to you and allowed you to share your experiences. If you can't think of a person in authority who did this, think of a peer or a spouse or even a friend. You most likely think back on these moments spent with this particular person very fondly, maybe with gratitude or with another positive feeling. For me, this individual was my 8th grade teacher. Someone who invested in me and gave me the confidence to explore my own world. He allowed me to ask my burning questions, even when they were outside the areas of his expertise. He communicated with both his words and his actions that my questions were worth being answered, that my ideas were worth considering, and that my future was worth thinking about. It's likely that these individuals were not thinking about my or your innate desires to be seen as significant in each of these moments. They were probably aware of other things, either in your life or in their own, and there were likely a multitude of factors that contributed to the way that your relationship played out. However, regardless of all of these factors, they left a memorable impression, one that you can reflect on, either positively or negatively. This is not meant to be a therapeutic exercise, but it does show us some important things about the role that we hold as youth investors. It shows us that we need to pay attention to our encounters with students and be intentional about the legacy that we are leaving. One of the best ways that we can do this is to focus on having a balance between grace and truth. Truth can look like many different things. On a bad day, it looks like your gut reaction. It looks like your immediate response when a student shares an inappropriate story or asks what you deem to be a stupid question. It feels like a conversation being shut down before that student gets the chance to explore the answer for themselves because you didn't feel like going down and getting into the nitty-gritty details of whatever it is they were wondering about. On a good day, truth looks like engaging with students on a mission to seek wisdom and then internalizing it. It looks like setting expectations, knowing that your youth are capable of handling them. It feels like having appropriate boundaries and stability, something that you can stand on. Grace can also be used in good or in bad ways. On a bad day, it looks like permission to behave in unhealthy ways. It looks like accepting negative behavior, language, or thoughts because it feels uncomfortable to bring correction. It feels unsafe and discredits your ability to lead. On a good day, grace looks like gentle reminders to strive for success. It looks like fun and connection in a way that builds bridges with every individual. It feels calm and predictable. allowing space for uncertainty and patience for growth. We all have our good days and bad days, and likely you have a tendency to lean towards grace or towards truth in everything that you do. But the trick is to remember that regardless of which one you choose to operate in, you are leaving a lasting impression on your students. It can be helpful to stop, to take a breath, and to think about that before acting, before committing to a specific response that will become entrenched in their memory. Grace and truth function the best when they are in partnership with one another, when we are able to maintain a balance between being incredibly gracious and incredibly truthful. In the field of psychology, there is a model used to define different styles of parenting. This is a T-shaped spectrum with demand on one line and responsiveness on the other. The model suggests that the most effective parents operate on the high end of the spectrum of both demand and responsiveness. This means that parents are able to set clear expectations for their children and connect with them whether they meet those expectations or not. They will have clear boundaries about how the child is meant to conduct themselves and rules about what will happen if they don't meet those expectations. And at the same time, they will also have lots of moments of fun, where that child can explore the world that has been safely set before them in the context of those boundaries. These parents work hard to communicate with their children about all topics at an age-appropriate level that seeks to develop skills and share insights about their environment. They offer comfort and support and provide a very safe space for their children to return to. I believe this is exactly what we should be doing as youth investors. If we can find a healthy balance between grace and truth, setting expectations, and also responding to needs, we will be engaging in meaningful, long-lasting relationships with each of our youth. The lessons that we teach will be more likely to stick in their hearts and their minds. But more than that, we will leave a legacy of health and encouragement that our students can take with them into their own relationships. What better way to encourage confident, sustainable, kind individuals than to model these behaviors for them and with them? If you're saying to yourself, "Oh my goodness, this feels overwhelming. How on earth am I supposed to be very gracious and very truthful at the same time?" You're not alone. This is something that all people struggle with at a certain level. There's a reason that Jesus talked about this in Scripture. He wanted to reinforce the importance of this idea and remind us to pay attention to it. But that didn't mean it was going to be easy. My suggestions for maintaining this approach with your youth are to always follow the ask, validate, offer approach. Within this approach, your first step when engaging with your youth is to first ask them what's going on. Encourage them to share their thoughts and opinions. Instead of jumping to conclusions or making your own decision about something before hearing their side of the story, ask them what's going on. Helpful questions can include, what do you think about this tough topic? How did you find this experience? And what can you take away from that conversation? In moments where you need to act fast in order to preserve the safety of one of your students, it's okay to first deliver an expectation. But make sure you always come back to this moment of considering what life is like for them. Ask them what their experience is, because likely they'll be willing to tell you. The next step is to validate. By validating what someone has shared with you, you encourage them to engage in an open conversation. This does not mean that you have to agree blindly with someone else's opinion or perspective. What it means is that you encourage them to continue thinking about what's going on. You give them permission to lower their defenses because you've heard them out. You understand that they have worked hard on their thought process, or that at the very least, their opinion is worth something. This contributes to a high degree of safety that is very key to helping Gen Z feel the freedom to continue sharing. Helpful phrases can include, "I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with me. I'm interested to hear more about that." Or, "It sounds like this means quite a lot to you." The third stage is to offer. Instead of directly responding to Gen Z by telling them that they are right or wrong, we should instead offer our perspective for their consideration. Regardless of how right we believe we are, we need to give them the opportunity to internalize those thoughts. This will help them to develop practical skills that they need down the line. It's important that Gen Z is given the opportunity to reflect on their own values and to incorporate those values into each decision that they're making, even if that's in a simple conversation with a youth investor. Gen Z is much more open to feedback and constructive criticism than you might think, especially once you have first asked for their opinion and validated it by showing that they are important and they have significance, regardless of what their perspective is. At this point, you can offer yours, share your wisdom and insights in a non-confrontational way, in a way that suggests, regardless of who is right and wrong, this conversation is productive and that you are working for their success, even if you see their decision-making as being not ideal. Try to give them the benefit of the doubt as much as possible, and share your ideas with grace and respect. Some common examples might include, I wonder if this could be the answer instead. I've noticed this trend in similar situations, and I wonder if we could learn from that. Or, I think there might be more to the story because. In this situation, you can also offer biblical wisdom. Show them references to scripture that talks about this specific topic. Give them more information and more resources so they can dig deeper on their own. This might feel incredibly overwhelming, but I believe that you are capable, and that once you get into the practice of operating in a balance between grace and truth, by asking, validating, and offering your perspective, you will find meaningful relationships with each and every one of your youth.